Hello everyone, welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. We're at the Daytona International Speedway where the Pepsi 400 was run this past weekend. Boy, a lot of excitement there, a lot of hot weather as well. The president was here, and how about that qualifying run by the king, Richard Petty? But unfortunately, things didn't go as well for him in the race. We'll have all of that for you and much more in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing.
The July 4th running of the Pepsi 400 turned out to be a picture-perfect day for Ernie Irvin and his Kodak Film Chevrolet racing team. Ernie led the most laps en route to his second win of 1992. We'll have all the action from Daytona coming up.
It was an ugly day at Volusia County where a lot of crews went home angry, but it was a celebrating Steve Grissom in Victory Lane with a win in the Firecracker 200. I'll have the wild highlights from Barberville.
Wally Dallenbach Jr. is one of the young rising stars on the Winston Cup scene today. After success in other forms of racing, he's working his way up the ladder, hoping for the ultimate stop at the top. We'll talk to this talented driver of the Keystone Beer Car.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
Guess who just got back today? Them wild-eyed boys that had been away. The boys are back in town, boys are back in town.
The Miller Genuine Draft Rusty Wallace stock car is back in town. So you better hold on.
Spread the word around. Guess who's back in town?
Last year, Davey Allison added something new to his car. It wasn't wider tires or a slicker shape. It was the same Haviland Formula 3 motor oil you can buy, straight off the shelf, to add more life to your car with complete protection against heat stress, starting friction, and engine dirt. Now, we're not saying it was Haviland Formula 3 that gave Davey the energy to lead more major NASCAR races than anyone last year and win this year's Daytona 500. But we're not saying it wasn't.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
What does a high-speed turn at Daytona have to do with a left turn on Elm Street? At Ford, we race more to learn more about things like safety, because there's nothing like hugging a wall at 200 miles an hour to learn how to improve crosswind stability, or racing in a crowd to learn about safer, more responsive handling. And what we learn in this rush hour traffic, you can use in yours. Have you driven a Ford lately?
When the President of the United States comes to town, they bring a lot of security people with them, and you just simply can't do things the way that you normally would do them. Well, they had to have a lot of security for Richard Petty, too, because he had a big entourage following him around all week. And Sterling Marlin might have needed some of that security when he knocked Richard Petty off the pole. Petty hadn't won a pole since 1979 and had his best shot here for the Pepsi 400, but it didn't quite work out. For more on that and the other news and highlights of the Pepsi 400, here's Randy.
Well, Ned, as you said, the big news here was the fact that President Busch arrived on Saturday morning for the Pepsi 400, and the last time a president was here at Daytona Beach, Florida, Richard Petty won his 200th Winston Cup race. The King was the news here as well, as he qualified his STP Pontiac on the outside of the front row. On the pole position for the Pepsi 400 was none other than Sterling Marlin, the winner of the past 3 carburetor restrictor plate pole positions. And one other news item to announce: Karen Price of Knoxville, Tennessee has won the Miller Genuine Draft Grand Marshal Sweepstakes. And I'm sure, Karen, you'll have a good time flying with Rusty Wallace up to Pocono to see the Miller Genuine Draft 500.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
With President Busch in attendance, Richard Petty pushed his Pontiac out front to pace the pack at Daytona for the final time in his career. But his lead was short-lived, as on lap 6, pole sitter Sterling Marlin made his move past the king and into the lead. On lap 7, Dale Earnhardt's 4th of July celebration ended prematurely when his power plant let go, forcing Dale into a 252-point deficit to Davey Allison in his chase for a 6th Winston Cup championship. It was green flag racing for most of the 160 circuits in the 400-mile race, and out front for most of those laps was Ernie Irvan, flying his Kodak colors up front. Pit stop strategy played a big part during the first round of green flag stops, as some teams elected to take on 4 tires while others only 2. As the race headed towards halfway, the July heat had gotten to the king, and he climbed out of his STP Pontiac, being replaced by Eddie Bierschwell, who ran only 2 more laps. After the halfway mark, the battle came down to Ernie Irvan and Dale Jarrett, who had one of his strongest runs of this season going in the Interstate Battery Chevrolet. Jarrett would lead for a total of 28 laps. The first yellow flag of the afternoon didn't fly until lap 109. That's when Michael Waltrip brushed the wall in turn 2 and left some debris on the racetrack. Just 17 laps later, the 1-car slide by Morgan Shepherd turned into an 8-car pileup on the backstretch, knocking out Bobby Hamilton, Derek Cope, and Dick Trickle, and severely wounding the Hooters Ford of Alan Kowicki. The race went green with 31 laps remaining, and Dale Jarrett at the point. Jarrett, looking for his 2nd career win, was good, but just not quite good enough, as Irvan, who led 118 laps, surged back out front for the final time on lap 137. Over the final 10 laps, Irvan had to hold off the charge of Sterling Marlin, and he did. For Ernie, it was his 5th career win. Rounding out the top 5 were Sterling Marlin, Dale Jarrett, Jeff Bodine, and Bill Elliott.
I tell you, the car was great, handled good. I told everybody all week that the car that could run wide open all day is the guy that's going to win. And I never thought anybody would run wide open all day, and our car did. And that's what enabled us to win the race. The car, I didn't have to start lifting and feathering the throttle. So, the car handled good, had a lot of power. Really gave us a good motor. For once, we made the right choice in a gear ratio. I didn't screw that deal up, so that really helped. And the guys did great in pit stops, and just a flawless day, really.
I guess the saddest thing about the Pepsi 400 was the fact that it was Richard Petty's last race on the Big D here at Daytona. Well, we need to take a short break. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing are highlights of the Firecracker 200 Busch Grand Nationals from here in Florida. We'll also have a talk with Wally Dallenbach Jr. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Pepsi 400.
This is where it happened. The breakthrough in urethane chemistry that created a car polish so technologically advanced, one application lasts an entire year. Finish 2001. The car polish you use only once every 12 months. This old car's been badly neglected. Its finish appears destroyed. With no rubbing, no buffing, Finish 2001 with its urethane formula safely brings back the showroom shine, a rich, deep gloss shine that lasts an entire year. We tested Finish 2001 against other leading polishes, even some that claim to protect your car against fire or against acid. And the test results? Nothing, but nothing protects or shines better than Finish 2001, the 12-month car polish with a 100% money-back guarantee.
Finish 2001 is available at these fine stores.
Racing, I can't explain it. You're kind of in a limbo zone. Time's different, speed's different. Everything works different. It sounds totally cosmic. It's out there somewhere. It's out there somewhere.
Kyle Petty and Mellow Yellow. There's nothing mellow about him.
I'm a big man.
Why do so many men stick with Bic?
I'm a big man.
Because there's a Bic for every beard. Regular, sensitive, metal.
Yeah, I'm a big man.
I'm a big man.
Red Devil Enamel. You can always count on its durable finish. Harder than ordinary paints, its beauty lasts and lasts. Red Devil Enamel for the finish of a lifetime.
Coming up Sunday morning at 11:30 Eastern on race day, we'll get the final word from Milwaukee as the ASA AC Delco Series prepares to tackle the Milwaukee Mile. SCCA's Trans Am racers will be set to run in Des Moines, and the NHRA will return to Englishtown, New Jersey. Join us.
Race Day, 2 different editions, 11:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Eastern, TNN Motorsports Sundays.
Dallenbach has been a household name in auto racing for many years. Wally Dallenbach Sr. raced in the Indy cars for about 15 years, and he's now the Dick Beatty of that series. He's the technical director. Everybody thought his son, Wally Dallenbach Jr., would follow in his footsteps in the Indy cars, but that's not the case. He has found himself a home in NASCAR Winston Cup racing.
So the first question I always had, how did you drift towards the cars with fenders on them? I mean, everybody always thought when we heard Wally Dallenbach and we knew of your dad, we always thought the guy's going to drive open wheel cars.
Yeah, well, that was a goal of mine. I mean, I wanted to drive Indy cars, but when I went there and did a few Indy car races, things weren't happening, and really my experience has been in sedan-type cars with the IMSA GTO cars and the Trans Am cars. It's a lot like Winston Cup racing. I mean, they're fendered cars, they're sedan-type cars. So when I went open wheel racing, I really didn't enjoy it. And I had to make a big decision on where I was going to go. Fortunately, my relationship with Ford Motor Company gave me an opportunity to drive a Cup car at Atlanta. And after I did that one race, I was hooked on Winston Cup racing and NASCAR, and really happy with that move.
Why were you hooked on it? You know?
I think it was everything. It was the atmosphere. It was definitely the racing. The racing is unbelievable, extremely competitive. The people in NASCAR, the teams, the racers, and everybody are great. They're fun to be around. It's much more relaxed than the racing I was involved in road racing. It's a first-class deal. And I just felt at home at it.
1992 will be Wally's first complete Winston Cup season behind the wheel of Jack Roush's Keystone Fords. And while for the most part he's still considered a rookie, lately he's been driving more like a veteran, even though he started only 26 races. Jack had pointed out something to me that he thinks guys need like 6 races on each track in order to be somewhat accomplished. Is there something to that?
I think, yeah. I'm racing against guys that have thousands and thousands of miles experience on these racetracks. So, you know, and you kind of, I look at it as the beginning of the year, I couldn't even stay with them. I mean, I was basically trying to stay out of everybody's way. And as the year has gone by, you know, now I can at least see them and I can stay with them. And hopefully before the year's over, there'll be some racetracks where we're actually racing them. We run good at some tracks like at Daytona and Talladega. We had a great race car at Pocono. I think there's going to be some surprises. But yeah, you can't expect too much, especially on the short tracks. The short tracks are the toughest thing for me right now. And that's just going to take some time to get used to it, but I feel that we have a good enough team that we're going to surprise some people the second half of the year.
He's committed to NASCAR. He understands it's going to take a long time, that the drivers down here are very expert based on the period of time that they've been coming back to the same tracks over and over, and the fact that the cars don't change. So he is patient, and he's committed, and he can be as good as anybody down here is now or has been in recent time.
Wally Dallenbach definitely has the resources needed to be successful in Winston Cup racing. He benefits from his sister team with driver Mark Martin and chassis expert Steve Meal. Not to mention his own team has a talented mix of mechanics led by crew chief Steve Lloyd.
We get our heads together here and we try to run the same setup that Mark does, and then we're kind of on our own to adjust to each driver's preference. But it's been, Wally's a real good-natured fella, and he has a good rapport with people, and he's easy to talk to, and he can tell you, well, this is what it's doing, and you know what we need to do to fix it, and we'll work on it as hard as we can. And it's a lot of fun sometimes, and it's a big challenge.
Wally's rapport with people has been a plus to his performance on and off the racetrack. Hence the backing by Keystone Beer, complete with a Wally Dallenbach commercial.
Wouldn't it be great if your neighbor was Wally Dallenbach, the Keystone Beer Winston Cup driver?
Wally, great car. Want to take it for a spin, Dave? A spin?
And keep her under 170, Dave.
170?
You know, at first I was going, oh man, we got to do a commercial, you know. But they were fun. We had a real good time, and I think the commercial came out really good. So many commercials are so boring these days, and that was a lot of fun to do, and I know a lot of people have enjoyed it. We had.
Wally is definitely enjoying his growing experience on the Winston Cup circuit. And you can rest assured that one day he and his team will plant themselves in victory lane. That is, unless Dave gets there first.
Well, how'd you drive, Dave?
Well, she drifts a little in 3. No problem. But we need to bleed the brakes.
Wouldn't that be great?
Folks, Wally Dallenbach Jr. seems to have a lot of talent, and he also seems to have the patience it takes to get the experience he needs to run up front, and I don't think that'll be too long. It's time for us to take a short break. Still to come are highlights of the Firecracker 200 Busch Grand Nationals from here in Florida, and as we leave you for this break, here's this week's Haviland Track Talk.
This edition of Track Talk is brought to you by Haviland. Add more life to your car.
On any race weekend in NASCAR, a team spotter serves as an important extra set of eyes to help steer their driver out of harm's way. But when the NASCAR circuit winds its way out of the road courses, even these eyes in the skies need a little help from their friends.
We usually hook in with a scanner on MRN or, you know, the broadcast or whatever, and they have spotters as far as doing you know, the race, so that's probably the next best thing is listening to MRN, but it is quite difficult here, and the driver really has to be aware, you know, at turn 5, and that's the other important area, but it is kind of tough.
But sometimes the information provided to drivers by their spotters and broadcasters isn't quite enough to keep their cars out of trouble. That's when the volunteer collection of corner workers becomes a valuable asset to every driver.
Yeah, they're really good. I mean, even out in practice this morning, what lap we did run, when there was oil on the track, they were right there on it, you know, real quick. So it's really helpful with those guys.
With cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft, the world's a very cool place.
It's in his head, his heart, in every muscle. The energy to go further. Texaco System 3 gasolines put this kind of energy to work for you on the road. System 3 reduces deposits and cleans your engine in all octane grades to help put the heart and muscle back into older cars and keep new cars running like him.
Break through to a clean you'll never get from soap. Zestfully clean. Soap leaves a sticky film behind, but Zest rinses clean away, cleaner than soap.
You're not fully clean unless you're zestfully clean.
Today, live on TNN Motorsports. While John Benson Jr. kept his drive alive, another future star came close to success, but Jeff Neal went home disappointed. Veteran Mike Eddy persisted and captured his 37th career win in a day of hits and near misses. The Western Auto 300 kept the action on target. It's the 25th anniversary of the ASA AC Delco Challenge Series. Track Auto 200 today, 3 p.m. Eastern, live on TNN Motorsports.
Did you know that the VA hospitals provide medical care to our veterans over 25 million times each year? And did you know that during the Persian Gulf War, Operation Desert News provided thousands of free magazines to our troops? Now a campaign's been launched to help our veterans here at home. Operation Veteran Support needs your help to improve the quality of life for our hospitalized veterans. Call this number to make a donation or to find out how you can help the VA hospital in your area. Call now. American veterans need your support.
This is TNN, the Nashville Network, the #1 source for country music, entertainment, and information.
Next week, you'll meet the principal players of the Larry Hedrick racing team. They have the driver, the chassis experts, and the sponsor to put together a top-notch organization. All they need now is a little time.
These small stickers can mean big-time exposure for contingency sponsors on the Winston Cup Series. We'll look at the tricky equation of money, marketing, and the measure of success.
Last year's Busch Grand National Budweiser 300 in Loudon, New Hampshire had a little bit of everything, including close competition and a couple of crashes. But in the end, it was Kenny Wallace capturing his second Busch Grand National career win. We'll see if the current points leader can do it again in Loudon, New Hampshire. We'll have the highlights.
Well, the Pepsi 400 was not the only NASCAR race being run here in Florida this past weekend. The Busch Grand Nationals, coming off of their only road course race of the year at Watkins Glen the week before, traveled to the Volusia County Speedway for a 200-lapper. Bill Weber was there.
Jeff, a little bit of a tricky track out there today. What are some of the things you have to watch out for with this surface?
Well, you know that they had some problems with turns 1 and 2, and they had to put some concrete down, so that's made it a little bit tricky. But other than that, it's just a one-groove racetrack. Not a whole lot of passing is going to be done on the outside, at least not early. So hopefully we can just start on the front row and hopefully lead into turn 1 and stay there all day.
Gordon's Baby Ruth Ford led the short 23-car field onto the half-mile oval for 200 laps. Once again this season, the resurfaced track trapped the drivers in a single groove. Once you got out of that groove, the result was an out-of-control car on a slick surface. Gordon was fast and in front, a distinct advantage on the deteriorating track. Passing was at a premium, but there were plenty of fireworks to come. As Bobby Labonte and Joe Nemechek chased Gordon, the track surface started coming apart. On lap 134 of 200, the red flag brought the field to a stop, with Gordon still the lone race leader, followed by Labonte, Steve Grissom, Ricky Craven, and Nemechek. After surveying a huge hole in turn 3, officials decided to resume the race. On lap 163, Chuck Bounds spun, bringing out another caution. Gordon did not race back to the yellow, but Grissom and Labonte did, dropping Jeff into third. Shortly after the restart, Gordon, determined to recapture the lead, tried to get under Labonte, but couldn't make the car stick. When Jeff finally pitted, he was held by NASCAR and went a lap down. The battle up front focused on Craven and Grissom. Ricky took the lead on lap 178, only to lose it the next time around in treacherous turn 3. Gordon's problems continued when he was black flagged for jumping a restart, lighting the fuse for an explosive end to the Firecracker 200. On lap 195, Jimmy Spencer worked his way into second and watched ahead of him as Gordon's dismal day ended in the third turn wall. The race finished under the caution, with Grissom getting his first win of the year.
He made a gutsy move there to get by the 1 and the 44.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the way the track had come up there going into 3, you had to enter the corner real low, and I don't think Jeff or Bobby saw him as they entered the corner. The first thing I saw was Jeff going high and then Bobby, and it left the bottom wide open. We were able to get slowed down, get the car turned, and turns out that was the move that I guess let us win this race.
Today's mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
Our question today is from Renee Jenkins from Barberton, Ohio, who writes, what does a race team look for in a sponsor, and what does a sponsor look for in a team? Renee, for that answer, we'll go to Bobby Hillen, who drives the Team Ireland Chevrolet number 31, and they just signed Spamberger as a sponsor for the Pepsi 400.
Well, Renee, obviously a race team looks for money from a sponsor, but something that's really important is when a sponsor promotes and markets their sponsorship, because that's what makes the program successful. When they do that, they sell more product, and that makes them want to come back year after year. And so, a good relationship between them and marketing the sponsorship, that's the most important things. And sponsors looking for a team that's going to absolutely every week do everything they can do to make that team and car progress and run up front and win races, and for the driver and the team to represent them well and to be well liked among the people. So I think that there's a lot of good sponsors in Winston Cup racing. There's a lot of good teams, and it's just been a great sport, and it's really growing.
If you have any race questions or would like to hear Winston Cup qualifying results, race results, or point standings, call us at 1-900-73-RACES. Charge is $1 per minute. Average call 2 minutes for mailbox or 3 minutes for results. Fans 18 and under get your parents' permission before calling. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket free. You'll also receive a free copy of NASCAR videos, A Week in the Life of a Race Team, the latest volume in the exciting series, bringing the NASCAR lifestyle roaring into your living room.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show, and you be sure to be with us here next week on TNN for more on Inside Winston Cup Racing.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. Transportation for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. Clothing for the Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Simpson Race Products, where innovation never stops. Promotional consideration and a fee paid for by the Champions Press, creators of the finest collectibles in the history of Winston Cup. And by NASCAR Video, taking you behind the scenes to meet the top drivers and personalities in the sport. Get your first volume featuring A Week in the Life of a Race Team. Order today.
Race Day, next on TNN.
You're watching TNN, the Nashville Network.
Next time you're thinking about taking speed or speeding on a highway, stop and think how fast it could turn into tragedy. Experience the thrills of speed, the only way. With me, Bob Park, driver of the number 19 United Ceramic Tile NASCAR Modified at Riverhead Raceway.